Hi, Brian. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone. This is Brian Sachs and Joelle Sagner, and we're with Senior Transition Helpers. And this is the inaugural issue of our podcast, Videocast and Substack all in one. So we're very, very excited. And we really thought that might be best to do this really our first interview together, really explaining to you why we're even doing this. What is Senior Transition Helpers? Who really is our the person or family we're really trying to help, and who are we, and why should you even want to watch this? So we're going to tell our stories, and Senior Transition Helpers really is dedicated to helping the families of folks who are going into communities and making transitions, make that transition very smooth, very easy, very painless, and really making sure that it's a good financial move. And then oftentimes that's where the home comes into play. And we'll talk a little more about that, obviously, mistakes to avoid. But I know, Joelle, I'm going to take the liberty of saying this. You and I are both sandwich generation.
Correct.
And what's a sandwich? And, I'm hungry actually because it's right around lunchtime when we're doing this. But what's a sandwich generation? So I'll start with my story. I'm an only child, and I was born to parents who had me fairly late in life. They were in their mid-40s. And I don't know if they were shocked or horrified or joyous when I came out, but they definitely weren't expecting me. And so I in my 20s and 30s had to really deal with aging parents who unfortunately did not plan well for their finances. They did not have life insurance. They didn't have a whole lot of anything, to be very honest. Great parents, so don't hear anything other than that. But certainly didn't leave me with an estate like the Rockefellers. So and I was married and I had children, and so that's the sandwich. You're caught in between being a care provider for your parents and being a care provider for your wife and kids, and or husband and children, or whatever the case may be. And it's challenging. I've been through the whole thing. So I've been through illness. I've been through Medicare, Medicaid, VA benefits. My father was a veteran. We'll tell all these stories later. Um, my professional career has been as a real estate agent since 1985, and a mortgage banker as well for 37 years. Again, that's my personal passion, because I've been there. My parents' only asset was a home. Both my parents unfortunately died in a nursing home. My mom lived in an assisted living community for a long time. My dad was in and out of hospice. It's funny, Joe. It's not funny, but funny peculiar.
Right.
My dad was in a hospice facility 3 times and was told not to come back because unfortunately he was not passing away on schedule. I hate to sound so cold, but the doctor screamed at me the last time, "Why'd you bring him here?" I go, "You assessed him. You
Right.
said he got 3 to 5 days." I know it's not up to you or me, it's up to God, but you don't have to be nasty about it.
Right.
So, I've lived these stories, and if I think Joelle, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think Joelle and I are both very dedicated that if we can bring our experiences to you, because candidly, when I was doing this, Joelle, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was lucky. I had a great wife, and she's a social worker, and or in that field, and really helped me sort of navigate this, because you just want to pull your hair out. So that's me. So let's hear about you, Joelle.
So everything that Brian said is so true. It's a very difficult process to navigate when you have an elder parent that needs to go into a care facility or care community. It is so many moving parts, and you're also dealing with some loss of your parents' functionality that's very hard for you to deal with as a child, right? You see your parents getting older and frail, and it's frightening, it's scary, and it's upsetting. So you've got a lot of things that you're dealing with at the same time. My background is that I have a social work degree. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about social workers, but they're like fierce mama and papa bears protecting their people. So I have a very big passion for helping people. I have been a real estate agent and a broker for, I'm going into my 11th year. But Brian and I recently moved to Florida, both of us, and we're both in the same situation where we have parents that we are helping. I personally moved to Florida from Maryland to help my parents' life be easier so that they can live a longer, more satisfying, and easier life as long as they can. So I do everything that I can for them. And they're functional. Thank God. My parents are very functional. They do their own stuff. They've got a lot of social activities, but I do the laundry, I do the grocery shopping, I do the cooking, things that just make life easier for them. So I feel very blessed to be in a position to be able to do that for them. And when we got down here, we realized, hey, the properties are where people's assets are, and they need to unlock that asset many times to move to the next phase of a community. And that might be the only asset that they have. So that is a very big passion for both of us. I also went through this with both of my grandmothers. We were very fortunate in our family that I had grandmothers until I was well into my 40s, I think. And my children and my nieces and nephews all had great grandmothers. So they were really fortunate in that regard because that's not so common anymore. And both of them had to go into nursing facilities and back and forth from the nursing facility, the rehab to the nursing facility. And it was a lot to manage, even though I had some background in it. It was still really difficult. I think it was a little bit easier because I had some knowledge to be able to say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But for most people that have no experience in this, it's very difficult. And if you have a home where you need to pull the equity out to get them where you need them to be, then that's a whole nother arm that, you know, can cause a lot of frustration and difficulty. And from a background of a real estate agent, if you come in as a realtor, you're going to want that home to be retail ready. And for many people, that's too much of a task. It's too many moving parts for them. So Brian and I wanted to do this to be able to help people get to where they need to go faster, easier, smoother, and just make it a much easier process. Take one rock out of their bag of rocks they're carrying and make their load a little lighter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's spot on, Joelle. And we even want to take it even maybe a little bit further
Mhm.
because what we want to be is really sort of the one-stop solution. Because
Correct.
what happens, that we've seen through our experiences is that there's a lot of emotion going on, first of all, right?
Worse.
There's a lot of emotion with the children. There's a lot of emotion with the parent or parents because they're losing their independence in a sense.
Absolutely.
And the children are losing a pillar, so to speak, and realizing they now need to be the provider and the support instead of the parent who always was that
Correct.
rock, and so it's much more than just a house. I mean, you have personal belongings, you have furniture. I mean, I'll tell you, Joelle, my mother, she should rest in peace, and today's the anniversary of her death,
Oh
actually,
my goodness.
12 years ago. So it's coincidental we're doing this today.
Right.
This lady, so we lived in Baltimore in a house that was built in 1964. It had furniture in there from the 60s, but with plastic, of course, and plastic runners. And I was forbidden as a child to go into certain rooms. Okay.
Mhm.
So it brings back all these whole flood of memories, but what I remember having to do was really separate the the personal belongings from anything that may have had any value. Now, I didn't have siblings, so it was a little bit simpler because
Right.
when you have siblings, it's not as, you know, not as easy. And what we've both noticed here living in Palm Beach County and the surrounding areas, a little bit north, a little bit south in Broward, is that you have many residents here who are here and their family is elsewhere. Could be in
Correct. Could be 400 miles away.
it could be in Maryland, could be Pennsylvania, could be anywhere really, but predominantly and we have a lot of Canadians here. So
Yes.
that makes it triple hard and triple challenging to get the house ready, get the stuff cleaned out. I mean, just my move from Maryland to Florida, I had a dumpster. I had an industrial sized dumpster because I had 30 years of living in a home that we sold. So imagine what these families are going through, right?
Right.
And that's also part of what we want to do. We want to be able to assist you in taking whatever the family wants out and
Right.
making sure that you get everything that you want and not have to be flying back and forth from wherever you are to worry, did the dumpster guy come today?
Right.
Or how do we get rid of this or how do we get rid of that or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So it's a little bit more involved than just putting a house up for sale
A
or
hundred percent.
purchasing a home. There's a lot more that goes into it aside from both of our knowledge of the market. Um, Look, I mean, I don't mean to say this callously, but any agent can list your house. That's not too complicated,
I mean, yes, there's strategy and skills, but yes, 100%.
Yeah, I
Any
don't mean
agent
to
can list your
simplify
house.
that. I don't mean to simplify that. And you have the experience, and I have the SRES as well, the
Right.
senior real estate specialist, and we've gone through our trainings, but there's no real big science of plugging something into a multiple list system.
Right.
It's all the other things that come into play. And
Right.
oftentimes I know I didn't have money to really fix up the house and pay 5,000 a month to start with the facility immediately, because immediately was when it had to happen,
Of
Joelle.
course.
It
And
wasn't
this,
like,
yes.
we'll wait till next month, now we need it
And
now.
right. And this is often the situation that people find themselves in. Somebody has a fall, or you haven't seen your parent, you talk to them on the phone, and then you go to visit and you start to realize, wait, they're not really functioning the way I thought they were. The house might be in disarray. Maybe they can't really get out. Maybe their memory isn't so good. Maybe they fall and you don't even realize it, or they're unsteady on their feet, or they have a fall, go to the hospital, and then they need to go to a rehab, or they can't come back home.
Well, that's
So
what my mother's case was. She could not go back home.
right. Happened
And
to my grandmother too.
yeah, and talk about flood of emotions. I mean, I my mother wasn't shy, so and she had no filter. So whatever went from her head came right out. No thought process given to it. And I'm just going to tell you, she was not happy with her situation. And maybe I'll just put this in here. I don't know if this really is germane to the conversation, but probably is. I had to make a mental shift in my head
Hmm.
from making her happy,
Right. And
making
making her
her
safe.
safe. And, and happy went out the window.
Right.
And,
Well, safety has to come first.
yeah, I told her, yes, I'd love you to be happy, but my primary concern has to be for your safety. And you've clearly illustrated you're not capable of living alone.
Right.
And we'll save that story for a whole nother episode. But she was in a hospital, and then she went to a transitional facility because she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't do much. And then ultimately to a assisted living community where she was for 12 years at 5,000 a month. So
Wow.
we can talk pain, I get
Right.
it. And then finally to a actual nursing facility where she got real, the round the clock, and unfortunately at the end, the hospice.
Mhm.
So, I guess I'm just bearing it all here, as is Joelle. So you guys know
Right,
that we feel it, been there,
right.
done it. Can't say we wrote the book about it yet, but I'm sure we will. But if you have questions or concerns or comments, leave them here, because we're going to try to do these regularly,
Yes,
and we want to make sure that your issues are being addressed. We're going to have guests on. If you are in the senior industry, so to speak, quote unquote, certainly feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to be on your show or have you on our show. And as much information as we can get out there, the better. But in the interim, if you do have an immediate need, you can reach me at 443-324-8424. Or you can email Brian at seniortransitionhelpers.com. Again, seniortransitionhelpers.com. Now they reach you, Joelle.
they can reach me at 443-277-3160 or at joelle@seniortransitionhelpers.com. And would be happy to help you in any way possible. If you are not uh, in a position where you need to sell the home or you're not ready to, we can also provide you some other assistive services, like, someone to help you clean out, some auction people who will help you decide the value of property that you have there and try to maximize your dollars.
Absolutely. So till next time, thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.